Welcome on into BKL Nightly. It is Thad Brown along with Caleb Carr, Rachel Liebert. Thursday before the Carolina Panthers matchup in Week 8 for the Buffalo Bills. Got an injury update on the way, plus predictions for this weekend's game. Guys, let's start with the injury update quick. Head right to the graphic here with what happened at practice today for the Bills. No change at all from yesterday to today. Josh Palmer, Daquan Jones, Taylor Rapp, still all a DNP. Matt Milano, Terrell Bernard, both linebackers limited at practice today. Dalton Kincaid with the oblique still limited, as is Curtis Samuel. I think the bottom four guys we're all going to see play on Sunday. As for the top three, I think when you miss two practices in the week, or at least the first two practices, that's usually a bad sign. Let's go from that right into the first item of discussion for today, and that's, might we see Jordan Poyer as a starter today? I think it's definitely a possibility that he is a guy that is a safety who is on the roster. And I know it sounds silly to say, but the Bills only have three of those guys right now. It's Taylor Rapp, it is Cole Bishop, and it is Jordan Poyer on the practice squad. So if those are the only three guys that the Bills have, and one of them, Taylor Rapp, is not going to be healthy, I think there's a reasonable chance that it might just be a forced situation where the Bills have to play Jordan Poyer. Caleb, let me go to you. If it's going to be Poyer, how much of a concern is there for you that a guy who was supposed to be kind of coach, emeritus, is not going to be a guy the Bills have to depend on to start in a game?
I mean, it's definitely concerning because of the fact that my expectations for him aren't that high. At the same time, though, it's what we've seen from this secondary so far this year has not been anything to begin celebrating. It has not been anything that's blown you away. At times, it's been just downright bad. So I do think that there is a world where, although Jordan Poyer isn't who he used to be, and he's this all-pro, all-star kind of guy, although I don't think that's possible, I think it is possible that he goes out there and he kind of elevates the secondary just from his presence. We know that he is a very loud, not in a good way, loud, and he's vocal, and he's always hyping people up. And that's kind of the reason that they brought him in, just also the fact that he's a vet and he knows what he's doing. That's kind of the reason they brought him in. But I think him on the field could, in a world, help elevate the rest around him. I
think there's a point there. The loud point, I know what you're saying. It's not like he's volume loud, but his presence is noted.
Yes.
No matter where he is, what he's saying, everybody is listening. Actually, he's probably the quietest guy on the team by volume. He's never been, an outspoken speaker, but he's super confident and therefore a guy the Bills should be able to depend on. Rachel, the other part of this is too, it ain't like the starting safeties have been some fantastic combo this year to where there's a big drop-off going to Jordan Poyer.
Yeah, I think at this point, getting anybody different in the mix can be a positive for the Bills. I mean, Taylor Rapp has been okay. Cole Bishop hasn't been great. We've seen a lot of games where, Cole Bishop is the talking point of conversation in the secondary of what's gone wrong. So I think having someone in the mix that's been here before, that is a veteran, regardless of, he's not who he was when, he came into the league, but I still think that this could be a positive thing for the Bills, even if it's just the leadership thing, like Caleb said. Just having a different guy in the mix there, I think, could be something that could help improve the secondary that hasn't been doing too well.
The other part of this is, too, it's probably not going to be the Chiefs or the Eagles passing game on the other side. I kind of, with you guys, I think Poyer can be fine. The one worry I have is that I was starting to think, what do I think Poyer is right now? And then I think we have a good example of what Poyer is, and he's right next to him in the defense in Trey White, in terms of a guy who, 3-4 years ago was a really high-level player, and now the physical parts of it aren't there anymore. I do think that at safety as opposed to corner, the thoughtful part of it, the brain part of it is more important because you are coordinating more that's going on out there. As opposed to corner, it's you got this guy on the outside, don't let him catch a pass, which is, I think, a more physical thing. But the fact that I'm sitting here using all these words to talk about it kind of makes me feel like that I'm trying to throw a word salad together to defend what's a good idea when really it's not. This is not what the Bills wanted to have, not where they wanted to go with the defense this year. So we'll see if Poyer can, make it through this weekend without causing any big problems. I don't think he will, but there's a concern there for sure. Now, the Bills are getting some guys back, not from injury, But from suspension this week, Larry Ogunjobi and Michael Hoyt will play for the first time this year. Dion Dawkins today got a question about what those guys are bringing in terms of juice to this team. And, well, he answered in a way that only Dion Dawkins can.
It's like you going into a club, and the section of the club ain't nobody in there turned up. And then here come Hoyt and Larry, and they run in the club, and they turned up. It's going to make you turn up, right? It's going to make you turn up and want to have a good time. I think me being Dion, that's how I see it, right? We had a couple guys that couldn't get in because they left their ID home, and now they're at the club and they've let them in. So now they turned up with the guys. So that's how I see it, and I'm thankful to have them in the club because it's time to party.
I love, as always, the way Dion looks at everything in only a way that he can possibly involve or imagine on his own. But I think he nailed it again. Look, no matter what you think of these guys as players, and we talked a little bit yesterday on BKL Roundtable about who they might be in terms of contributing from an X and O point of view. But Rachel, just getting some fresh blood on the field will be, I think, beneficial for this Bills team.
Yeah, I think this is the Bills' morale might be coming off. I mean, being pretty low. I mean, now that they're kind of back off this bye, it might be a little bit higher. But the last 2 weeks, I mean, were losses. So I think getting anybody in the mix, especially two guys, we've seen, Michael Hoyt speak, and he's kind of the same way, put some sentences together in the same way that Dion Dawkins does.
A whole different way.
A whole different way.
I mean, Michael Hoyt's an Ivy guy.
Yes, so, yes. But
his sentences come together with proper grammar and everything. Dion's aren't exactly like English major A+, but the communication ability.
The point's always there. He's
exactly.
always like he said, it's time to party. He's always bringing the party. But no, I do think that just bringing these guys back, getting new people in the mix, especially coming off the bye, will be a positive for the Bills. Same thing going back to, like I said, with Jordan Poyer. I think honestly, just getting new faces in the rotation at any phase, at any point of the defensive offense, I think is just good to kind of get the Bills back on track.
It's a great point. They're coming off 2 losses. Anything new and different is going to feel better. Let's try something else, even if Jordan Poyer is not option A1 of what you would think would be the way to go there. Caleb, in terms of bringing the juice with these guys, just having a little more juice on the D line can be helped. The Bills had 3 active defensive tackles for the Monday night game. For a team that loves to rotate their defensive linemen, that's a ridiculous number. So you put Larry Ogunjobi on the field, who no matter what you think of him, he's a professional body. Michael Hoyt, there's a number of ways he can help out on the edge. These are just, at worst, extra competent professionals that'll help this team stay fresh.
Yes, and like you said, Sean McDermott, Bobby Babich, they like to rotate that D-line. They like to have a couple guys in, and then they like to make some moves and keep those legs fresh, keep those bodies fresh for everybody. And like you said, with only 3 guys on Monday night, I think that might be part of the reason why it felt like the Falcons just did whatever they wanted to, is because you had guys who are used to rotating on the D-line that couldn't because there's just no one to rotate with. So I do think that these guys coming in and just, like you guys said, just being new faces, kind of almost on a different, a little bit different, but kind of along the same lines as Jordan Poyer coming back. It's a new face. It's a different guy out there that can have different things to say, that has a different ability, whatever those abilities are going to be, whether, I don't know how good they're going to be yet, how much benefiting that they'll actually have stat-wise, but just having different guys out there that can have a different look of things can sometimes be extremely important. That's a big reason why the trade deadline's always big talk, is because just having a new guy in the building can sometimes be all a team needs.
And Michael Hoyt said yesterday, he talked about, look, I feel like I'm a guy that the Bills acquired at the trade deadline, but I already know the playbook. So there is a little bit of a benefit there too. I think for sure these 2 guys can be a benefit. I think there's a good chance they will offer some sort of benefit, even if the big one to me is Michael Hoyt improving the run defense on the edge and 1st and 2nd down, and allowing Joey Bosa to focus more on what he's been doing well this year, which is rushing the passer on 3rd down. So I think this will be a help. As for that passer, we don't quite know who it's going to be on the Carolina side, but it feels like we do know because Bryce Young didn't practice for a 2nd day in a row in Carolina. So it looks like it's going to be Andy Dalton who will take the first snap of the game for the Carolina Panthers against the Bills. We talked yesterday on Buffalo Kickoff Live, or on BKL Nightly, about how it probably doesn't matter whether it's Dalton or it's Young in terms of ability. But guys, Rachel, let me start with you. Now that we kind of got a good feel that it's probably going to be Andy Dalton. What kind of an impact can the veteran have on this Carolina Panthers offense against Buffalo on Sunday?
I mean, I'm kind of with you. I don't think, regardless of if it's Young or if it's Dalton, it's really going to make a difference. I mean, obviously, experience helps in any aspect. I think with having the guy, I mean, he's like, the third oldest quarterback in the league, I think, right now. So that's.
I mean, there were two really old ones on Thursday night last week, but he's got to be close.
I think he was behind those two, maybe. But I mean, it's just. I don't know if he'll bring anything that the Bills should be concerned about as far as that they weren't game planning already for with Bryce Young. I mean, when Andy Dalton came in last year for Bryce Young when he was benched, I think he went 1-4 in that 5-game stretch that he was in there for the Panthers. So, I mean, I don't think it's too much of a concern just regarding what if he's going to bring, crazy. The Bills have to change their entire scheme, and I don't know. I mean, I don't think they're going to go use him. Maybe that would just take less pressure off of their passing defense, and they'll just rely on the run game more, which Carolina does anyway. But I mean, same thing. I feel like Dalton or Young, it's kind of doesn't really matter in my opinion.
You hit it on the head there with Carolina. They want to run the ball. That's what they want to do. The one thing with Dalton as opposed to Bryce Young that I thought was interesting, the Bills' last 3 quarterbacks they faced, Spencer Rattler, Drake May, Michael Penix, had 32 combined starts of experience when they played the Bills. You guys want to throw a guess out? How many starts of experience does Andy Dalton have right now?
A lot more than that.
Yeah, but that's correct. Go ahead and take a shot at a number, though. What's the number? 32 for the 3 kids. What is Andy Dalton? He's aged 37.
He's 37.
If you get within 10, I'll be impressed.
15 years. I'm going to go with 318.
They only play 17 games a year. But that's actually not too terrible. Go ahead, Rach. What's your number?
My math. There's no math happening in my brain right now.
It's less than that. I'll say
185.
That's pretty good. 172 is the number.
Okay. Oh, wow.
So
I was way off.
Yeah.
I was so far off. How many years has he been in the league then?
Well, 318, like, if you think about 16 games a year and they play 20, that'd be 320. So they don't play 20 games a year. I'm sorry, flip it around. 16 games a year. If he played 20 years, that'd be 320.
Okay.
And he hasn't been a starter every day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, all right, we'll do ingenuitive math lessons again next week. We'll work harder on that. But the point is, Caleb, and you get a chance here to talk about Mr. Dalton. He's pretty experienced. How much does that help?
The transition from Bryce Young to Andy Dalton, I don't think makes me more scared of the Carolina offense, but I definitely don't think it makes me less scared. I think my main thing is what we've been talking about is just experience. I think that if the offensive line, and maybe these new additions to the defensive line help them out enough to have an impact on this Carolina offensive line, but the Carolina offensive line isn't that bad. I think they're like right in the middle for sacks allowed. Now, granted, that is with a quarterback back there that has some mobility. Bryce Young definitely has some mobility. Andy Dalton does not have that level of mobility. But I think that if this offensive line, or the Bills' defensive line rather, give Andy Dalton enough time, I do think Dalton has the ability and the experience and the knowledge to pick apart the Bills secondary, who hasn't been playing that well. So that does make me a little nervous. But again, the fact that you've got a couple new bodies coming in on the D-line, and you're coming off a bye week, you should be healthy, you should be amped up and ready to go. I don't think that should be too much of a factor. And for that reason, that's the only reason I have that I would be scared of Andy Dalton.
I'm glad you brought up the sack number, because the number one thing that the Panthers will lose going Bryce Young to Andy Dalton is that ability to escape.
Yes.
The Panthers actually are 23rd in pressure rate allowed. So the offensive line does give up pressure more often than most teams. But what Bryce Young has really done well the last year and a half or so is escape. He doesn't scramble for yards, he scrambles for time. And the Panthers will not have that, because the three of us have more agility probably than Andy Dalton has right now. So if the Bills can get pressure with, you got Ed Oliver and Joey Bosa and a fresher Joey Bosa like we just talked about, and Greg Rousseau, Andy Dalton instead of Bryce Young, I think could be an advantage for the Bills. All right, let's go to our BKL roundtable. 3 questions, 3 opinions every single week. We're going to start this week with the Panthers. Guys, Rachel, you get to go first here. Of the different things that the Panthers might offer, what's the number one thing that worries you this Sunday?
Going back to what I just said, I think their run offense, considering the Bills' run defense is pretty low ranked in the NFL right now, and I think the Panthers' run offense is like top 5, I think, right now.
They are. The stat I've been carrying around with me all week is they're number 1 in success rate. Number 1 in success rate.
Yeah, so that definitely is my biggest concern. Kind of like I said, with Andy Dalton being presumably the starter, I don't think the pass defense of a concern for me for the Bills, but just, I mean, they have a decent run offense, and the Bills have been not doing great defending that. So that's kind of the biggest thing for me is going into this game.
Not doing great is a very nice way to say it. That's the old like.
I think they're ranked 31st. I think
that's only because there's 32 teams.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
So they're not too hot. No.
Caleb, your number one Panthers concern.
I'm going to go with the same exact thing. I'm going to be a little bit more specific, though. Panthers run offense, but specifically Rico Dowdle. Listen, Chuba Hubbard is a good running back, and I believe he was injured, which is why Dowdle kind of took over the workhorse role. So he's coming off of an injury, but I can't say that Hubbard really impressed me insanely with the season he's had so far. But Dowdle, on the other hand, before last week where he split the carries with Hubbard and he only had like 17 carries, before that he put up 183 yards and a 206 rushing yards. And then he had like 20 receiving yards in the first game with the 206, and then with the 183 he had like 50. So that's 200 total yards in back-to-back games. If the Carolina offense is smart, they would probably just run the offense through Dowdle. And if they do that, I'm terrified of what they can do. Now, if they split carries again, then I think that they have a chance to slow it down, to slow Dowdle down on limited carries. But if they just let him be the workhorse, like I'm sure a lot of fantasy managers also hope he will be, it's not going to be pretty.
Chuba Hubbard's been a solid back.
He's been solid, but Dowdle's been like...
But he's been great for like 3 games, and 2 of them were Dallas and Miami, who might be the 2 worst defenses in the NFL.
Well, the Bills' rushing
the Bills.
defense is the second worst.
Well, Rachel just brought it up 31st.
The Bills
literally
are
60 seconds ago.
in the same category, so there's no reason why he shouldn't do the same thing to them.
For the record, 234 and 241 total rushing yards for Dowdle, or total yards from scrimmage against Dallas and Miami. Against the Jets last week, he only had 96. They're going to split it because they like
that was
Chuba.
on split also.
Yeah, right, for sure. I will say that the number one worry for me, and although run game is probably the right answer, it's actually the size of the Panthers receivers. Teteroa McMillan goes 6'5", Xavier Legette is 6'3", 225. Jalen Coker, their third receiver, is 6'3", too. Think about who the Bills have likely in the secondary right now. You have Trey White, not as athletic as he used to be, smaller. You have Taron Johnson, smaller, probably still as athletic as he used to be, but he's not having a great year for him. Cole Bishop, who's really athletic, but Derrick Henry, Bijan, we've seen him look small on the field. Jordan Poyer, we've talked about where he is relative to his prime. And Christian Benford, who's fine. But big guys against that secondary down the field with Matt Milano and Terrell Bernard not at 100%, that to me is a scary proposition if the Panthers are forced to go to the passing game. Not that I think the Bills will lose that matchup, but I'm worried that straight up size might be a factor. All right, number 2 topic for today. What would you want, Caleb, we'll start with you, offensive player that you want to see used differently, whether it's formation, frequency, what's the guy that you think, I've seen this for 6 games, and I'd actually like to see this instead?
I'm gonna go with Ray Davis because I don't think he's been barely utilized at all. And I don't know if this is something that the Bills coaching staff is seeing behind closed doors that we're not. But based off last season, based off training camp, I saw nothing that told me Ray Davis is not going to be and shouldn't be part of this offense. Specifically, I'd like to see him a little bit more in the passing game. I think James Cook has elevated his ability in the passing game. But the main reason I say this is we've seen what this passing game is up to this point. And one, the weapons that they haven't been playing great at all. And then 2, it doesn't look like they have many high quality weapons to begin with. So then when they stop playing good, that kind of limits what you can do. And I think Ray Davis is just another guy that can make plays in the passing game. He's another weapon to try and see if it sticks to the wall. So at this point, I think, and also I don't love the continually only leaning on James Cook because I don't think that's going to be, I think come playoffs, we're going to be looking back and saying, they should have limited him a little bit. So I'd like to see Ray Davis involved a little bit more.
I think it's a good call, especially in the passing game. I like Ty Johnson a lot. He really has not had contributions this year, has not been that productive. Rachel, who's your guy?
I'm going to start with Josh Palmer just because, we know he hasn't practiced all week and there's possibility he doesn't play this weekend. But, we've seen what Josh Palmer can do, and I feel like he just hasn't been targeted, as I would feel that he maybe needs to be in this offense, that there hasn't been one guy that stood out in, in the passing game or in receiving yards. That's my short answer. But then I think Jackson Hawes, because we go back to this every time Jackson Hawes has had one reception, the Bills have won. Last 2 weeks, or week 5 and 6, did not touch a ball. So maybe it means something. So maybe Jackson Hawes needs to catch a ball and then the Bills will get back on track. I don't know, but no, those are my answers.
If you're listening, Sean McDermott.
The Jackson Hawes one we should save for last. That would have been the good finisher to this category. I'm actually with you on Josh Palmer. He's my guy also. Look, the Bills gave him 3 years, $29 million. He's had 2 catches or less every game since the opener. That's ridiculous. Yeah, if you're going to pay this guy, and look, obviously, if we want to talk about paying receivers, that hasn't worked out. Curtis Samuel would like a word at some point too. But Josh Palmer is a guy who I think has shown separation, who's shown an ability to just win on his own. Not a lot, but more than most of the other guys. So I'd like to see the Bills get him a lot more involved as well. Third topic this week. Look, it's the bye week. The Bills have lost 2 games in a row. So they've had time to self-scout and all those cliches. What do you guys want to see be fixed when we go on? We see the Bills take the field on Sunday. Rachel, you get to go first this time.
We've got to get back to the basics. Just the tackling. I think the tackling. Was that your answer?
It warrants 2 answers. Go ahead.
The tackling has been atrocious. Might be lightly putting it. I feel like it's just been bad all around. They've had a week off to figure it out. Go back to the basics. Sean McDermott said, he's taking the time off to reflect on what this team needs to do. And I think just surface level tackling is, you got to get, like I said, get back to the basics and figure out how to make a tackle because it hasn't been great.
I'm going to just pretty much exactly what you have tackling. The Bills have allowed the most rushing yards after contact. I think I talked about this a few weeks ago. 4.38 yards after contact per attempt. The next best is the next worst, is 3.6, I think. There's just such a wide gap in how bad they've been tackling. And I think this is a great week to kind of show, okay, we can do it. Like we talked about, it's a pretty good running back room. You talked about how big their receivers are. If they can bring down those big guys, if they can stop the run game by tackling them at the line of scrimmage or get them in the backfield or only allow 2 to 3 yards, I think that would show that they showed some improvement. So I think this is a good game to come out of to show that they improved, but they need to show that they did something.
I'm kind of with you guys in terms of the basics. For me, it's fumbling. Look, last year the Bills had the least fumbles in the NFL with 9. They have 7 already this year. They're on pace for 20. Now, look, you don't expect them to be the best in the league in that every year, but 20 is like the worst in the league. So let's dial that back. More protection of the ball. I think it's become clear that one of the things the Bills really lived on last year was winning that turnover differential because they finally lost it 2 weeks in a row and they've lost the game too to teams that we don't think are in their weight class. So primarily controlling turnovers, but to me, putting the dang ball on the ground, that's the thing that the Bills have to reduce. Speaking of mistakes, the Bills have had 30 penalties in the last 3 weeks, their most since Josh Allen's rookie year. It's been a problem for this team pretty much throughout the McDermott-Allen era, but specifically exacerbated the last 3 weeks. Sean McDermott talked about that a little bit on Wednesday.
Some of the holding penalties and then some of the line of scrimmage penalties. So the line of scrimmage penalties are 100% within our control, and that's those are non-negotiable. And then the holding penalties are, again, technique in this case and controlling what we can control. Get yourself in good position, move your feet, establish position, maintain position, and then you get to a certain position where you're losing the leverage, then you got to let go. And, that's been addressed. It's been looked at. The spotlight has been shined on that area in particular, and we have to be better because it's impacting offensive drives. It's impacting defensive drives as well. And so it's hard to win when you're actually hurting yourself without the offense or the opponent even doing anything.
Mistakes are a big part of what the problem has been offensively. You look at the numbers. I think a lot of things the Bills are doing are right and good and positive. Even I know people complain about James Cook's usage. I think the Bills actually have been doing a pretty good job in general of getting him on the field. To me, mistakes. We talk about fumbles and penalties. Those are the things that I think the Bills really need to change to keep this offense, to get this offense back to 30 points a week. All right, time now for predictions. It is the end of the week here for us at BKL Nightly. So we have our thoughts on who's going to win and what the score is going to be. We are all combined 0-6 the last 2 weeks because we all keep picking the Bills. Shame on us. Rachel, you get the first choice here of what you think is going to happen on Sunday.
I'm picking the Bills again, and I think Bills are going to take it 28-17 is my prediction. Sean McDermott's undefeated after a bye week with the Bills. I don't know. I mean, I think the Bills are favored 7.5 points right now.
Yeah, still.
I think a bye week is a good thing for them to get back on track. I think they'll take this by 11 points it is. So, Bills 28-17.
Caleb?
I think the bye week, like we said, and I like that Sean McDermott out of a bye week stat. I think they're going to win. I do have them winning. I'll tell you what, that 3-3 record makes me want to pick Carolina, but I do think that they're going to win. I just don't have the confidence that they're going to be able to cover. I think we talked a lot about this defending the run game and what they have to do. I don't have confidence that they will do it. We know what they have to do, but I don't think that they will. So I think the run game's going to gash them. I'm not too worried about Andy Dalton. I'm not too worried about the receivers, but I think they'll be able to put up points, get into field goal range. And the Bills' offense, they just haven't shown me much over the past two weeks to make me confident in them either. I do still have them winning, though, 24-20.
All right, I'm with you guys on the Bills winning this game. I think, number one, the Bills have to find a way to get Carolina off that run game, one way or another. I'm with Rachel, 31st in the league, that I'm not optimistic about stopping the run will be the method. I think scoring points and getting ahead, though, can be the way to go. Look, Carolina's defense does not get after the quarterback at all. They're bottom whatever in virtually every pressure stat. They've got J.C. Horn down the field, but after that, there ain't much in terms of the secondary, too. So this, to me, I think is going to be a big Josh Allen game, or at least it can be through the air. On top of that, look, Carolina's special teams are no good, and we talked about the Bills 8-0 off a bye. You would think that Sean McDermott has the formula for figuring this all out. I'm going to give Carolina the cover, though. They are 3-0 at home. I do. The thing about the Panthers is I went into the week thinking, this is like bye week part 2 for Buffalo. But the more you look into Carolina, the more I like about what they do in the run game, both sides of the ball. They run it really well. They stop the run fairly well. And we talked about with the Bills, when they can't run the ball, their offense seems to be stuck in molasses. So I'm concerned about the Bills being able to just do whatever they want offensively against Carolina all day long because of how good Carolina is against the run. But I think Buffalo will do enough to win this game. The other part of this is, too, if they lose 3 in a row, it is like full-on 3 feet on the panic button kind of thing in Western New York. And I just don't see a Sean McDermott team getting there, not against Carolina. You know, if they were playing this week against, I don't know, think of a team that can walk and chew gum but isn't great. The Rams, maybe. The Rams might be too good for this example. That's the kind of team that might concern me. But Carolina, who's like, woo, we're 4-3, look at us. That's the kind of team I think the Bills should handle their business against. All right, that's going to do it for another edition of BKL Nightly. We are back again on Sunday. We have a live post-game show, by the way. Me and Kayla will be on right after the game. Sunday afternoon, we'll begin about 4 or 4:15, whatever. It'll take you up until 5 o'clock. Right here where you're watching this channel, you can tune into that post-game show. We'll have Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, live post-game press conferences on the air on Sunday afternoon. Then after that, it'll be the three of us back on Monday to wrap up everything that happens from the Bills and the Panthers. Thanks again for watching BKL Nightly. For Caleb Carr and Rachel Liebert, I'm Thad Brown. We'll see you again Sunday afternoon after the Bills get done tangling with those Carolina Panthers.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.